all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
Don't forget that your skin is your largest organ, and the sun can be your skin's worst enemy. Dermatologist recommended Neutrogena products offer the ultimate protection for your skin. From makeup remover wipes to Hydro Boost Water Gel Facial Moisturizer, BJ's has your entire lineup of Neutrogena skincare products. And now through December 3rd, save $4 on any Neutrogena product at BJ's. Love your skin back and save now through December 3rd, only at BJ's.
Welcome to the No Fruit Podcast,
where we talk about our life experiences with a spiritual twist. Hosted by Maurice
and Kafi. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
You got it. I hope you all are having a wonderful and blessed week. And just want to ask you guys a little quick question. Just a little bit about the first and the last shall be first. And how you feel about that. Like, you know, there's just so many different ways to look at it when it comes to, one thing that comes to mind for me is that Maurice and I have been following Christ since we were younger. And young ones. And we're working this thing out and trying to make our way to heaven. But if someone who comes along and, you know, says the right thing, you know, and pleads Jesus and, you know, what am I trying to say? Says they're the right words, you know, what's it? ABC.
Okay.
And I'm losing it here.
I see.
So they say all that, and then they have the same right to heaven without all these years of Sunday school that we had, not without all these years of choir rehearsals and, as Maurice said, you know, rehearsals for being an acolyte and all that, and they still can get to heaven. You know, so the first shall be last and the last shall be first. That just kind of interesting, and I don't know how many people are feeling some kind of way about it or not feeling a way about it, but
I think in that excuse me, as we had discussed this already, that for those of you who don't know where we're talking about, you know, we're talking about the scripture, Matthew 20:16 through 18.
The parable of the laborers.
Right.
They're getting paid on the 11th hour.
And so, you know, if you as you read that, you see that there were some laborers who worked from sunrise to sunset, and they were all paid the exact same amount. And
some were paid, some worked the whole day, sunrise to sunset, and some just worked for a couple of hours.
Right.
And some worked a half a day. And no matter how long they worked, they all received the same reward.
Right.
Similar to us as Christians, some of us are working a full day, some are working a half a day, and some are just working a few hours, but we all are expecting the same reward to be in heaven.
And, you know, in this situation, one of the laborers had asked, how do we get the same amount as as these persons that came in at the very end? And the response was, "It's my choice." Pretty much, I'm paraphrasing. I don't have it directly in front of me, but it is his choice whether or not he wants to be generous or not in the pay, right? So, as some of you well know, you know, we have another show where we talk about From the Last Pew, and, you know, whether or not, you know, are people getting paid the same whether or not you're in the front pew or the last pew, is the blessing the same? Will the, like as you're saying, is the reward the same? And sometimes some people don't feel as though it's the same.
I think that we've taken it. Sometimes you take your eyes off the prize, your eyes off of what that payment is. Again, you're stating in this scripture of Matthew, everyone was promised a fair wage, and everyone knew, hey, what that fair wage is. So the fact that some people were expecting more or less according to the amount of time that was put in, they still got paid the fair wage. So likewise, when it comes to today and we deal with some of the dignitaries within the church, they feel as though they have more say. They have kind of made it in some regard. Some of them just kind of know they have their seat in heaven and they're just waiting for it to be called, their number to be called, where they put their nose up at those, as Maurice would say, that are sitting in the back pew or who have not become dignitaries and dignified to be in the front or the front of the sanctuary. And I think that's some of the differences but the Bible tells us that God sees them as the same.
Right.
Whether you're sitting in the pulpit, whether you're sitting in the front few pews where the dignitaries sit, whether they're deacons and deaconesses or trustees and, all those people who have titles sit in those first few pews, if you will. And then the average everyday folk kind of start to filter in. But God sees them as souls. He sees them as, individuals and not by the role that society has given them. So I'm not saying that God doesn't bless individuals to be a deacon. He does, he does call them out to be those things, but I don't think that they're any greater than someone who doesn't have that role. Overall, in God's eyes, they just been given that role here on earth to help the kingdom be built. But the Bible is basically telling us that if you get so caught up in your role, then that's your reward. Your role is your reward and not heaven. Like you're looking and you're putting that role up so high on a pedestal that you're forgetting that I'm doing all this work so that I can get to heaven, so that I can see my king, those things but God wants you to be humble in it all. And if you're not humble, then, it's just
what I guess the question is, what are you doing it for?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you doing it for, as you said, the reward here? Right. So from a political perspective, or a I need to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in a position, whatever it is, as you're sitting in the front. Because in reality, if you're sitting in the front, you can be seen, and then you can get that coveted deacon position that everybody wants to be in.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean? If you are in the front, you can be elected president, over this particular organization.
Right.
If you're in the front, it's very hard for someone, and understand where I'm going. It's hard for someone to overlook you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Versus, especially if the meetings are, and the facilitator, if you will, is in the front. Not so, it's not very often where a facilitator will pick somebody from the back. Not often. They will. You get what I mean? Sometimes when you're in class, they want to pick people in the back just to make sure that they're awake, or trying to see if people are paying attention or whatever else. And some people pick those individuals because they know that those people that's in the back are just as smart as the people that's in the front.
Right.
So I don't want to get confused or get it confused that there is a true hierarchy from the front pew to the last pew. Let's not get it confused that there is a true hierarchy in, as what Kafi is saying, in the eyes of God.
Right.
Because we're all trying to make it to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about how no sin is greater than the next, all that type of stuff. So
But we as man, we put that on there. Like, if somebody, murders someone, that's like, oh, goodness. But if someone, beats their child, then that's not looked at as so bad in some people's eyes. As and even within our judicial system, is looked at differently. Like the amount of time and the amount of money you have to pay or whatever it might be for driving drunk is totally different than it is if, you do some other crime. And because they kind of have some measurement to them. And like you said, there's this hierarchy or there's this level system of, hey, you did a level 1, you're level 2, you did a level 10.
Right.
And it's all judged differently. But God is the final judge, and he judges a lot differently than we do here on earth. And I think, again, that's where this parable is going, that what you think is good, it might not be what God is asking you and requiring of you. So what does God require of you? And if the parable, if the guy who was in charge, if he was Christ, if he was God, and he was just saying, hey, I just need some people to work, how willing are you to work? How willing are you to work? And then what do you expect for your work that you're doing?
And I think, unfortunately, the reward that we're looking for being a heavenly reward, people can't, it's not tangible.
Right.
And depending on who you talk to, even those that are in, if I had to say diehard Christian, like give it that type of title, but even some of them, they don't always come off as if they believe that heaven exists. You get what I mean? So, if you don't believe that heaven exists and you're trying to get what you want to get here, I mean, because if you, I think it's, is it the Jewish faith that thinks that what you're going to get is here already? So when you look at it from that perspective, how many Christians actually feel the same way? If it's really heaven on earth, if you will, then do what you gotta do now. If you're one of those individuals that think you're only, you're not gonna be 100, part of that 144,000, are you trying to get your blessing here? So I think it all depends on what you truly believe, versus what you are exhibiting. Because you could show one thing, but really believe something totally deep down in your heart, something else.
Right, and I think that's what God, sees. He knows.
Right.
Again, you having that role, people can think that you're high and holy because you have that role, but you don't know Jesus at all. You don't have a relationship with him at all.
Right.
You're just holding a seat. You're just holding that position. So you're not praying, you're not fasting, you don't have that heart of God. You're not trying to really expand fellowship and expand the body of Christ for the purpose of helping people. You're just trying to increase your numbers because you want to make a church, or you're just trying to increase your numbers because of whatever else, and it's not the right focus. So, but God knows that, and God knows your heart. And I think, again, those are the things that'll be judged, and those are the things that he looks at. So, again, that person who sits in the back but is bringing all the little kids in, how does God feel about that versus the person that sits in the front and leads worship service or says a prayer or whatever, but is empty? It's empty.
I mean, we can't speak for God. We can't say
not at all. No.
How he truly feels in this. I mean, we can go based off of the word, but we also know that there are many faces of God. To be honest, sometimes we want to look at him from this prosperity perspective, and not understanding, like, he did say, no, don't do this, and we'll turn you to salt, or whatever it is. So, so let's make sure that as we're moving forward, that we're not in that position of being put in the belly of a whale, or where, for generations, our family is going to die off and be cursed, whatever, not cursed, but, we're not going to be blessed, if you will. So let's make sure that we are truly in a position of not putting other people down for them not being in the front of the building, for them not being in the front of the church, that your blessing should be greater than those that are in the back. And that's all we're talking about today. That's all we're getting at today. How do we put everybody on the same playing field? Mm-hmm. Because I think sometimes, we look at those individuals, or some individuals are placed in a power position because, one, they're tithing more, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Maybe that person can't. Maybe the individual that really wants to tithe more, they're locked into, if I give up another $5 is the difference between my child going to daycare or not.
Right.
But
again, God knows their heart.
Right.
So, he'll provide and he'll make a way when he needs to. So, but it was kind of interesting what you said in reference to kind of evening the playing field for everybody. And I think at one particular time, I recall, at least for me growing up, that it was kind of even. You didn't call people by titles. Everybody was brother and sister. Then as I got older, they were like, well, no, that's Reverend so-and-so, and no, that's whatever. And I remember one minister that we had, he was like, no, I'm brother so-and-so. Like, I'm a brother first.
Right.
You know what I mean? This Reverend role is, no, I'm a brother. I'm in the family of God. Like, that's who I am. That's my role. And I think when you can consider everyone a brother and everyone a sister, and not put people up on pedestals and say, okay, well, that's the pastor. Oh, that's the deacon. Or, that's, because then you take on and you put on those people certain criteria, or you have certain things that you expect them to do and not to do. Like, oh, wow. Yeah, because I remember being little and somebody went out and smoked a cigarette after church. I was like, ooh, like, they're not supposed to be smoking. I was a little kid, but again, I had such a reverence for certain people in church, and it's just like when I went outside and I saw them smoking, I was just like, ooh.
That's funny.
That's
hilarious.
And that's just outside of church. Lord knows if I could have seen them do some of the other things that they probably were doing.
Right.
Or saying and whatnot, becoming a grown person. Now I'm like, oh, wow, that person drinks and smokes and fornicates and,
right.
Cheats on taxes and, so many other things. And it's like, ooh.
Right. Yeah, right.
For that as well.
Like, you got other reasons you really could say ooh for. But I think that's one of the things that we need to look at, that just trying to reiterate what you're talking about as far as positions, because yes, there are a lot of responsibilities put onto those, and we're going to use pastor because that's what you use, right?
Right.
And so there's going to be some undue expectations, if you will. But at the same time, some of these same people that say, you know what, I'm just brother, whatever. Because there are some pastors out there that do come off like, hey, I'm just this individual, but want to be elevated or taken care of on such a platform that's unbearable.
Right.
You get what I mean? So if I'm saying, hey, I'm just Brother Maurice, but at the same time, I want to make sure that, when I want to use that title of I'm pastor, when it's convenient, like, y'all don't take care of your pastor. Like, this is my birthday. How come y'all ain't bring me a cake? Well, listen, you just brother such and such, right?
Right.
I don't do that for brother such and such over here.
You get in with everybody's birthday.
Right. So no, like, you don't have, if you want to be in that role of everyone else, oh no, I could put you in that role.
Right.
You know, so you can't play the role when it's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean? And I think sometimes that's what happens.
And it happens not only in the church. Like when you were saying that, Reese, I was thinking about a lot of our sports figures when they try to say, you know, I'm not a role model.
Right.
You know, those types of things. It's like, well, you got a lot of people looking at you. You got people wearing your sneakers that have your name on them.
Right.
And you're not a role model. Like, yeah, come on. People are going to look up to you. But I understand they want to kind of say, look, I'm just brother so-and-so. I'm just sister so-and-so.
Well, like, so when Charles Barkley, because he was the one that said that at one point in time, one of the reasons why he was saying that, because, I remember one interview where he mentioned, hey, there's people that's in the community that you could be looking up to.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm doing is just bouncing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making a real difference in anyone's life. I'm just bouncing the ball. Now, granted, you know, that is, you know, some people look up to that because it shows them, one, in entertainment, one is something that I enjoy as a pastime, being basketball or sports. They get to be on TV and commercials and movies and so forth and so on. So, you know, some of the other avenues that's presented to these athletes, if you will, quote unquote, you know, some people do aspire to be those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do have, again, some undue expectations of them. But unfortunately, those that make all this money, you know, we feel as though like they owe us something overall.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the other part that he was trying to get to too. Is like, hey, just because I'm making this money, it doesn't mean I owe you anything.
Right.
You know, so, it's funny because there are some pastors that I've spoken to over the years that kind of feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, I'm your pastor, but you know, what do I owe you?
Right.
You know, so and sometimes a lot of this stuff is like catch-22, you know, interpretation, you know, attitude, background, who you were raised up by in ministry. You know, it's so many different factors, just like you know, as an adult. You know, what did you grow up under as a kid?
Yes.
You know, and what do you take into a relationship from your past relationship? You know, what do you take from your past relationship into your current relationship? That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so what is it that, what undue undue or unrealistic responsibilities do we put on people that are in certain positions? Whether it's a front pew versus last pew, whether it is pastor versus janitor, whether it is our manager at work versus, you know, someone that answers to us.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean? To our spouses and children and parents. You know, sometimes we put so much emphasis on these, as you said, some titles sometimes that we lose that, you know, and I'm going to be honest, you know, in my own personal background, the parent figure, and I'm not saying my parent, but parent figures, you know, would be sure to say, yo, you better, not you better, but you got the sense like, if I called you not by your title, quote unquote, there could be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was, I understand that there was a sense of respect of who they were.
Mm-hmm.
But some people, sometimes you feel like that's all you really want. You don't want anything else that goes with that title.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You get what I mean? You know, so.
And we're just speaking as aunt, uncle, grandmom, granddad, like.
Cousin,
you know,
whatever, you know, because even to a point where, you know, I did have to call some older cousin's cousin.
Yes.
Which I understand, you know, especially because otherwise they would have been Mrs., you know, whatever their last name was. So I understand that part. But, you know, let's be clear that some people just, you know, they really enjoyed that title, want to live in those titles because it gave them a level of respect.
Right.
But in other cases, though, you're looking for the respect, but that's not something that you're also giving back.
I mean, and then what I'm hearing from you is like with these titles comes a job description.
Technically, yes.
You know what I mean? So with those expectations of what it takes to be in that job and in that role, what does it take to be an uncle? What does it take to be a deacon or a trustee, a pastor, whatever? What is expected of that role?
Right.
And then what do you get from it? So
Right.
likewise with our scripture in Matthew, what was the job description? What was expected of them?
And that is hard to say. I mean, I had a conversation. No. What I'm going to say is like it's hard to say because in my conversation earlier with an individual, just talking about sometimes you don't know what the conversations are behind the scenes, and with that job description, it could just say laborer, right? Mm-hmm. But if, for an example, if I work in customer service, and which I did. And if I got there at 8:00 and I got off at 4, my call volume would be different from someone who worked 9 to 5.
Right.
Because after 4:00, we didn't get the crazier calls.
Correct.
Right. So does that mean I should have gotten paid more because I worked the earlier shift, quote unquote? Mm-hmm. Or when I worked from 11:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., after 6:00, I got 0 calls. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd be lucky if I got 2 in 2 hours.
Wow.
You get what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs, drawing. I mean, well, I don't work there anymore, so I can say this stuff now. But, and I haven't been there like over 10 years. So, but anyway, but the reality is.
I know you were drawing the company's logo. I understand. Yes. Go ahead.
Actually, I was looking into my own future.
Yes.
But what I'm getting at is that does that mean that I should get paid less because I'm not taking on the same amount of calls as the next? So I'm likening it to what we're talking about with this particular position. Technically, we had the same job description, but due to time, and let's be honest. Like if I'm not getting to work until 5, right, and it's pitch black dark in a half an hour, if I had to move rocks, I might not see the rocks the same way.
Right.
I might not be picking them up as fast because I can't see. I don't want them to stub in my toe, and I already got gout.
Oh, goodness.
You get what I mean? So the last thing I want to do is stub my toe, drop it on my toe, drop it on my foot, drop it on my ankle, whatever. So I'm going to be a little more careful so I'm not moving as fast. I might not even be sweating. Mm-hmm. Where by the time I get there, if I'm at 5:00 person, you might be drenched in sweat because you've been there since sunrise.
Right.
So yeah, it might have been cool when you first got there, but midday, boy, your back might be black.
Exactly.
And
achy.
Right. So
picking up rocks like we in the Flintstones or some stuff.
Right. So should I not get paid what I'm worth? So.
But that's why I'm saying it goes back to that contract and it goes back to a job description or whatever. So your job was to move rocks and you would get paid fair wage.
Right.
Period.
All I said was I can't work that early shift.
And the employer decided what fair wage was.
Right.
Or society decides what fair wage is.
And
not only that. So, yes, you can work customer service, but at ABC company you get paid $12 an hour. At XYZ company you get paid $20 an hour. It's the same job. It's the same industry, but one company decides to pay more. That's what they consider to be fair wage, $12, and another company considers it to be $20.
Right. Which is what what we're going through anyway right now. Mm-hmm. As far as the wage scale, if you will.
Right.
But I think that's something that we all need to look at. How are we putting everybody on the same
But at the end of the day, regardless if you get $12 or $20, you're still getting a blessing. And I think that's what people need to understand.
I think you kind of switched it up a little bit by using 2 jobs or 2 different companies. Mm-hmm. Right now, we need to kind of keep it in the same company. You get what I mean?
For the the lesson of being
right.
mad.
I mean,
everybody was doing the work for the same employer.
Right. And
he decided.
Yeah, he decided that, hey, everybody's going to get paid this amount, period, no matter what shift you work.
Right.
And so to me, I could try to justify it as many ways as I can, whether it is I needed a job and he said I only got this shift, here's the wage, bam, no matter what it is. You get what I mean?
Right. Along
with you know what, you are a little more seasoned. Don't come in so early. I'm gonna work these young cats, because you're a little more seasoned. I could still use your expertise, but I know that your productivity will be the same, whether or not you come in early or late. Mm-hmm. But if their job is to move 100 stones and it takes them 13 hours, but I know you can move 100 stones in 5, I might not need you to come in early. If I know if you come in 5 hours later, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I think some of those, we have to, because again, we're not at that time and we don't know what the real deal was and all that type of stuff, but.
And we don't have all the particulars, like you said, if
right.
somebody, if they all moved 100 or if, hey, those who were first moved 100 and they're all proud and boastful that they moved 100 and then the next group that came in the midday moved 50, if it was equal in that regard, and then the last group moved 25, like everybody did, X number per hour, but then they all get paid the same. So the first group was real salty because.
I mean, and I can understand that.
Right.
But, but that's why I say I'm trying, just me in my mind, I'm trying to justify it, The
justification is the owner said, look, this is what you're going to get paid.
Well, the reason why I'm justifying in even productivity,
mm-hmm.
sometimes you don't know what the productivity is of that other individual.
Right, but then I think when you do productivity, then you can get very close to, okay, well, your productivity is high, so therefore you become head trustee. But what about those who don't have any, are not at that level and producing a whole lot? They still should, again, they all get the same reward. So I don't think it's based upon that productivity. I think it's based upon this is what the promise is. The promise is you're going to heaven.
I mean, so
you can't work your way to heaven. You can't work your way to that wage.
I can't say that everything from that lead position mm-hmm. is always based off of productivity.
Right.
For those of us that have been in church or whatever, sometimes it's political, sometimes it's
you're cute.
Right. It's a whole nother vibe. So, but we just want y'all to continue to listen and tell us what how you vibing with us, and what's your thoughts on this whole thing of first versus the last shall be first mentality, and anything else, Kaf?
No.
Hey, Kafa, what do we want them to do?
Maurice, we want everyone to stay fit with Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow, share, comment, and subscribe to the No Fruit Podcast.
Continue to listen to us on your favorite podcast channels.
And look for new episodes every Thursday.
We thank y'all very much for listening to us.
May God bless you all.
Peace.
We all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once, and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
Don't forget that your skin is your largest organ, and the sun can be your skin's worst enemy. Dermatologist-recommended Neutrogena products offer the ultimate protection for your skin. From makeup remover wipes to Hydro Boost Water Gel Facial Moisturizer, VJ's has your entire lineup of Neutrogena skincare products. And now through December 3rd, save $4 on any Neutrogena product at BJ's. Love your skin back and save now through December 3rd, only at BJ's.